more or less the pod where you tune in to hear us sing versions of our AI generated music from the companies we back. Hello, friends. What's cooking?
Welcome back from LA.
Hey, guys.
Thank you. Sam was there too. It turns
we were
out
both there.
Los Angeles is not that far away from San Francisco. Who knew?
2 hours door to door.
Right there.
Who knew, guys? I have this idea. I think it's going to be big. No.
Well, to be clear, I actually think it depends where you're going. Santa Monica is not very far from Hillsborough. But I'd say that parts of LA are very far away. It's all about the traffic and the airports. And
That's true.
It's fair.
The high-speed rail continues to market that it's going to be ready in 2026. Are we more or less that
April
timeline?
Fools, Brett.
April Fools. There will be no high-speed rail. Big guessing. But yes.
America can't do infrastructure. Come on.
Oh, come on. We have to be able to do infrastructure.
well, that company is probably like one PR person left in a closet somewhere that no one told. It's kind of like, you know what it's like? It's like, I love the story of how there were all these Japanese
I was just going to say.
who were fighting World War II well into the 1980s.
And nobody
And like
told
they
them.
refused to surrender because they hadn't heard from the emperor and they thought everything was misinformation that they had lost. That's like some guy's in a closet. He's the only hire left. And he's like, it's coming. No one told
Wait.
him.
Posting on Instagram once a
Update,
month.
real-time update. Okay, it needs another $100 billion. And then it could be ready in 2026.
God.
Do you want one data center or a high-speed rail?
Well, yeah, I was going to say it just needs a Stargate data center that we reported Microsoft and OpenAI are building. But it's great to be back from LA, where the information held an awesome conference, and I hope we'll talk about it on this week's More or Less. So thanks for everyone for tuning in.
It didn't cost $100 billion.
You have to bring us behind the scenes.
Yeah, so this is the 4th year that we've held an event for creators and tech companies and all the people kind of building what is the creator economy, which I think everyone on this podcast would agree is kind of like the economy.
It's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah, it's kind of what if we do say so. So
Yeah.
It was awesome. So much discussion, a lot of discussion around AI. I think we've got to dig into that with more news on AI and content this week. And yeah, I don't know, Sam, what were your takeaways as an attendee?
I thought it was great. I mean, like, look, there's 2 themes in the world whose death is greatly overstated. One is crypto and the other is creator.
Amen. Amen.
The capital raisers and the AUM folks have all moved on to AI because where else can you put $100 billion and call it, venture capital?
A high-speed train.
Yeah.
Really, actually, for what it's worth, that was venture capital in the 1800s. Is you basically had a high-speed rail of the 1800s, not even high-speed, rail of the 1800s. It's almost exactly what AI of the 2024 is. The same story all over again. So you're off by about 150 years, but same idea. But yeah, I think it was great. I mean, I think there's no question, Slow Ventures, we have a strong thesis, obviously, around, and we've been putting a lot of money where our mouth is around the fact that there's this new cohort of entrepreneurs that are starting by building communities first. It's very obvious. And, if your job is to follow entrepreneurs with capital where the capital is scarce, so you can sell money very expensively, it's a great place to be investing. I will say that my biggest takeaway is when I think of Los Angeles, I generally think of dumb people. Like, I don't think of Los Angeles as a place where smart people are.
Sam just lost his...
I'm sorry to all of our listeners in Los Angeles.
Generally, there's always exceptions.
Sam just lost his border privileges into LA.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
They actually do understand the content business really well, like way better.
Imagine that, Sam.
Like the sophistication of the content conversation in Los Angeles, shocker, happens to be way higher than in New York or San Francisco.
Before this event, we had this nice dinner, 20 amazing people from Hollywood, including like Brian Grazer. I mean, legend, awesome guy. Sam leaves the dinner. He's like, those people, pretty smart. And I'm like, yeah, they get the content business,
Well, I like going into a room and saying,
chuckled.
you're all wrong and I'm right. And I looked down and I was like, you guys are actually kind of right. You actually do understand this. It's like, damn it, I have to go find something that I disagree with you about. So
I won't, when I refer to any content, I won't refer to people, because I promised people that the dinner was off the record. But, the creative world basically thinks AI it's just going to make sourcing the truly, truly original stories that much more important. And they actually have, I think, some really good strategies for doing that. They're not saying that as like a kind of pipe dream. And
wait, so is their strategy for sourcing truly original stories changing? I mean, hasn't that always been extremely difficult?
Yeah, no, I think it has, right? And you hear the experiences of how, these great movies and great stories and great scripts kind of all came together. And it was like something that happened to one of them when they were 12 years old or something, right? I mean, it's just incredibly powerful.
Look, in the end of the day, I think that the take that I thought was reasonably sophisticated and smart was saying, look, if you think about like news feeds or social media, there was just a bunch of stories, and even like you can think about like memes that like weren't in the popular culture, that because of the new formats, like the information flows differently, you see a bunch of new content, there's new ideas. The basic take of being like AI is just another tweak to what we see and consume, and therefore we'll see different stuff. It's an interesting take. I mean, I think the question in my mind really comes down to, is AI and like a lot of these things like homogenizing in a sense, versus what degree is it kind of like going to create new weird like paradigms or surface new people or new ideas? I don't know. Like, I think there's a very strong argument that it's very homogenizing. Yes, you'll get weirder and weirder porn, but it will all hit the same beats, right? That like have been trained on the underlying data. But I don't know.
I love that that's the first example you use when you're talking about homogenous content.
It will all hit the same beats. Yeah.
I don't know what beats your porn hits, Sam.
No, I'm just saying, like, you have to start with the thing that viscerally, like, you can think about, like, how weird can get. The answer is pretty fucking weird, right? But like, is it like getting weird in new dimensions that are actually creative and interesting, or is it just, replace, I don't know, this person with that person? Now you're on the moon. You know what I mean? Like, you make up the weird, what those stories are actually creativity.
I think as someone put it, like, you're not going to beat the algorithm, but that's not what a lot of creative talent are trying to do,
Except for, I feel like, what do you think about music? Did you have any musicians there? Because I think music is an interesting category.
Diplo.
Oh, Diplo. Okay.
So cool. Immediately got on stage and he's like, where's my information swag? And honestly, we didn't have enough for him. So I made one of our AV guys take his information hat off, and now we're going to give our great AV team another hat. But I was like, we got to give the hat to Diplo.
Such a musician move.
Sorry, Britt, you were going to say about
I was
music?
just saying, I mean, this week, we had hundreds of music artists write a letter to basically Silicon Valley.
Shouldn't they have sung a letter?
With AI, they could have probably done that together.
Since they're music artists, with it, they write. Don't they
AI
sing?
probably could have stitched together them all singing portions of the letter, and that would have been a
really funny if it turned out that they had AI write the letter.
Wait, what was the new company?
Suno.ai. Guys, I used this recently. It's
of course you did.
All right, guys, I gotta plug Make if we're gonna start plugging music AI. We invested in a music AI startup like years ago, is crushing it actually. So like, there's a lot of them out there.
My point is not to plug Suno AI, although they do make really awesome songs that sound like Disney songs. But all these musicians were, pinned a letter this week that asked AI developers and big tech companies to basically cease the use of AI because it's infringing and devaluing the rights of human artists. And when you talk about film, I actually understand the idea of like great story and great acting and that being something that's like way more human. I feel like music's actually a harder category because you can replicate song and melody and lyric in a way that does sound very human and is really compelling. And Suno actually is a great example of this. I was playing with it with our 9-year-old son the other day. We have this thing after school on Tuesdays called the Kidventors Club. And, a bunch of kids come and I teach them how to prototype and design inventions. And he was like, let's make a theme song. And so I asked it to like make a theme song for a group of kids that live in the Bay Area who have an invention club and make it sound like a Disney song. And like,
was it like Kids Invention Club
No, it's like
inventing things.
No, it was really cool. It was like we should put it on the podcast because it's audio. But it's like we're the dreamers of tomorrow.
We're the dreamers of tomorrow, reaching for the sky.
That sounds like a 1980s
It's super
cartoon.
catchy, Sam. It's super catchy.
Guys,
I guarantee your kids will love it.
More or less, the pod where you tune in to hear us sing versions of our AI generated music from the companies.
Well, here's the question with music is, I think, to push on Brit, it's like, look, narrative arc over an hour-long movie, complicated human emotion, whatever, is pretty far off. You said, look, the reality is music is just like, can you, at first blush, humans like certain beat cadences, and like TikTok is already tuning perfect music for engagement, right? Can you tune perfect music? Probably, right? Now, will there be some sort of human backlash where all the humans are like, this music is incredibly boring and we want something super weird, like screeching cat noises, and that becomes
no, this is already happening. This is why country's rising again. It's
that's like, a good point.
You know, like country is guitar-driven, songwriting-driven human music in the face of digital, you know,
amp
AI.
up. I mean, Dave, you and I years and years and years ago invested in a company called Brain.fm. Not sure what happened to it, but the idea was basically like, we're just going to like program, study music, focus music, whatever. And it was actually pretty good.
It was really good.
This was like early. So like the idea that you could use AI to like tune versions of perfect mood music, I totally get, right? And I've actually seen a bunch of companies that do versions of this. I don't think that gets you film.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's much easier. I understand why these music artists are pissed.
But those music artists, like, those are like, it's like they're going to lose the market for like elevators, right? And like,
but they lost that market a long time ago.
Yeah. Who cares?
I don't know. When I heard my Suno AI song, I was like, oh shit, Lin Manuel Miranda might be out of a job, because it's like, it sounds like a Lin Manuel Miranda song. I guarantee it's trained off of something.
But are
like
you going to want to? I think it just.
Yes.
If Lin Manuel Miranda came, maybe the next Lin Manuel will be harder to create or harder to emerge.
He made rap musical about the founding fathers. It's pretty innovative. I'm not sure you're going to get that out of.
No, but then he went on. Wait. Then he went on to script Moana and Encanto, and every song sounds the same. If you're a Disney fan, you know this.
So, like, John Williams is out of a job, or
so
whatever.
His original breakthrough, right? Or not really, because he'd had some other good stuff before, but like the really big one, which is Hamilton. Hard to imagine. What I couldn't imagine, I can't imagine a machine getting that right. What I can imagine is a less talented musical or lyricist than Lin Manuel Miranda coming up with the idea and creating a pretty good thing using AI assisted tools. So Lin Manuel might have more competition from less advanced creators, right? Because of AI for the original breakthrough. Now, the reality is he probably has made all his money on Moana and like cashing in on like stuff that anyone can make later, right? But he's a cool brand. That might get harder because you're like, well, the cash in stuff goes away, right? Because you're like, anyone can make this. But on the flip side, I mean, just to argue against myself, it's like, why did he even make that stuff? It's like, obviously someone less talented could have made it. Was it important from a marketing perspective that it was Lin Manuel Miranda who made it? And so they're going to pay him anyway?
Yes. And like his music has a very particular vibe to it. To your point about beats, the same beats in Hamilton are actually kind of in Moana and in Encanto. You can tell that the songs were written by the same person. And so they all have like a little rap section. You know, there's kind of a similar vibe. And that's where I think, yes, Hamilton was very unique and artistic. But if like the model, you're like telling Suno AI, okay, now create a song about a person stranded on a beach or an island in Hawaii that's trying to find her grandmother, and the tune of Hamilton, I think it would come up with something similar to what ended up happening in Moana.
Okay, so just let's push on this, because I get it, and I think you're right, Britt. And look, we've invested in companies that are working on this. The idea being like, these are basically super advanced creative tools so that some kid can be like, I'm nowhere near as good as Lin Manuel Miranda, but I have a funny idea or a cool idea or a hook I want to do. Like, fix this, right? Like, and like make it a thing. I get that. That gets super more competitive. The question is on the consumption side, when everything's just better, do we just tune it all out and we want even better, right? Because you're just like, it's just like a sea of noise. It's like, who cares?
This is what I look, I think that you end up with kind of a barbell, right? Where you have a whole lot of AI generated stuff that has an extremely fast metabolism through culture, right? Like this, like lots of stuff coming. It's like, I don't know, it's like sugar food, just like tons of it moving through culture really fast. Nobody remembers any of it. There's no real brands
It's
built.
TikTok hooks. It's
Yeah.
TikTok hooks.
And then
I
on
mean,
the other
we already
hand,
have this.
you have these great stories that last for the ages, like classic Cars or whatever, right? Where you end up with these great stories like Star Wars. And I don't know, even those follow a pretty typical monomyth structure. Or, just like you were saying earlier, great human stories that are uncovered one way or the other. And these things sort of transcend the fast sugar metabolism of the AI generated world and kind of provide narrative backbones to all of us and humanity. To me, like that feels like what's happening.
I mean, if you just look at what's happening in music right now, right? You have the superstars being more popular than ever before by a step function, in part based on their live, and that includes live and streams on Spotify.
And great storytelling. Like Taylor
Right.
Swift dominates every single conceivable metric just purely on storytelling.
Right. But Beyonce is also huge, and you can name
It's
right.
all community. Like Taylor Swift is basically football, right? Like
Yeah,
humans are finding
for sure.
more and more weird niches to occupy, and then we all just agree to like Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Also, I've been thinking a lot, Dave, and you're really right. She's going to buy a sports stadium franchise team. That is
Yes.
so my prediction. Like,
Yes.
I think that's definitely going to happen.
Heard it
But
here
at the
first.
same time, I mean, I think there will be more AI auto-tuney music. People will listen to it. It will eat into something share-wise because there's only 24 hours in a day, but it also seems unlikely that it's going to be like the top artists in the world. And at the same time, like that's why it's kind of a really interesting time for AI and media. I mean, there's a lot. Go ahead, Sam. And then I want to talk about the news business for a
Again,
second.
in some ways, like the music thing is like the most blast story because there's nothing new here, right? It's like to your point about auto-tune. It's like we've already gone through the generation of like anyone can be a musician, like and Paris Hilton's a DJ, right? Like fame translates really well into like audio, whatever, and it's very easy to produce and change someone's voice and put a bunch of great producers on to make it. Does AI make it super cheaper? Sure. And does that mean more people can participate a la social media? Sure. Does that raise the temperature and everything? Sure. But I don't think it's like this major point of discontinuity in like how music works. It'll be like, again, you'll have super duper stars. I love Dave. You're totally right. It's the fast fashion of TikTok of beats that come and go in a week and they're super popular for 1 week. And then no one remembers who the fuck made them ever again. And like, there's just everything has to be better because the temperature is higher.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, there's some incredible. We're not early enough to the impact. It's who knows what the impact will be on television and film and all of that. But like, there's some amazing stuff. Like, I mean, the 3 Body Problem is not going to be.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's
We've
amazing.
been watching it. We've been watching it.
We've been watching.
We're
it
only
too.
on episode 3. It's crazy. Yeah, that's a story that I don't know if AI could come up with. It's so weird.
So good.
It's so good.
I've had 3 conversations about it today. Right, people are watching it. Right, people are talking about it.
Apparently, you have to watch the Chinese version. They already have a longer,
Of
like
course.
20 episode version that's on Amazon.
Aren't they very upset at the Delta?
They I think the Chinese version kind of glosses over the whole Cultural Revolution underpinnings of the beginning of the 3 Body Problem.
Ah,
By the way, best books ever.
so
Love
good.
the books.
Yeah, books are great.
Just what else were like the key takeaways of the Creator Summit?
We need to go deeper.
Yeah, well, there were a lot. I mean, I think so AI was a really big theme. TikTok was another theme. And I gotta say, folks, the sense was really, if TikTok goes away, something else will come in.
It's great.
So, I don't think it's going away. I'm more confident in that by the day. But that was a
Meaning
big
what?
theme.
You think that they're going to sell to a U.S.?
No, I think
No.
I think that I don't think anything.
Because you don't think
happens.
the Senate's not going to do anything? Really?
They have no will.
No,
I had that. I was so wrong to briefly have a glimmer of hope at America's ability to defend itself. I knew it couldn't, and I got excited, and I thought it could, but I'm
Wait,
right.
did
it
Sam
can't.
just admit he was wrong?
Briefly, I was generally right, but I was briefly wrong.
But he's only wrong in his ability to
Guys,
predict
This
something.
stuff doesn't happen fast.
You know why? It's because I was too optimistic, Dave Morin. For one brief moment, I was too optimistic about our ability to have a national defense strategy, and that's on me.
Well,
let me go through some
So
other
goes
themes.
the country.
Commerce, TikTok Shop, all of that, huge theme.
Like everyone's selling on TikTok.
But interesting. So the whole category of influencer commerce, I think, is evolving. It's kind of going from like Mr. Beast's Feastables, which, by the way, are pretty shitty chocolate, in my opinion, to also influencers and celebrities launching brands, but not necessarily wanting their brand to be a part of it. So, like, kind of towing that line a little bit.
Not wanting their brand to be part of what?
Of the marketing as much. So think Skims, right? Which is obviously like the exception here.
So, Britt, you're a good example. You were an early influencer to launch a company called Brit & Co. If you could do it again from scratch, would you call it Brit & Co. or would you call it something else?
No, the whole idea, like, I was at YouTube and watching like the early days of YouTube and the whole notion of a creator coming to life. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. But one person carrying a brand is a lot, even though people want to affiliate with it with another person. So what if I did it as me as the lead and then having a group of other creators, and like the co was meant to be community. And so all these women would come who are experts in photography and interior design and cooking and whatever, and be the expert of those categories. I still think that strategy group influencer is really interesting. And
it's certainly what people are trying to do right now. Like there's no question that is the strategy.
Really?
Yeah. So see, ahead of its time.
Posse.
What's an example of this?
Another Slow Ventures investment was with Melissa Wood Health, where it started out as Melissa, and she's great, and she built a huge subscription business, but has kind of brought in a bunch of other people now to kind of build out the community.
That's how you scale.
I guess that's also what Dude Perfect is doing. Like Dude Perfect created their own app, and then they've got Mark Rober and several other folks that are all now combining.
They also it's really Dude's Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of like an MCN, right? Like a multi-channel network where, eventually you want the flexibility for one person to leave because they're not happy, or one person outgrows the audience, or new people to come in, and you create a little bit more of a flywheel.
Like Kiss. Doesn't Kiss have like 1,000 members?
Really?
I think
no idea.
Some of these old bands like have cycled so many humans through them.
Huh.
By the way, we decided Dude Perfect was the creator most likely to have a theme park in the next 10 years.
Oh,
This is already public information. They're building it in Dallas.
Okay,
guys, you don't know? We did a group field trip.
Is this like a high-speed rail situation?
Kind of. Dude Perfect.
I believe they'll actually build it.
By the way, the Dude Perfect, for those of our listeners who haven't seen Dude Perfect, you can look at my YouTube history. I was early Dude Perfect. It's great.
Can they look at your YouTube history?
No, you don't want to. I mean, it's fine. There's nothing in there.
It's the Chrome history you don't want to get into.
Actual Dude Perfect things, all these trick shots where they spend like 16 hours trying to get like a penny into a fucking drone across. That would be the most annoying theme park in the world, right? You'd be like, okay, we're going to do this ride 100,000 times in order to get one shot, right?
Okay, I just sent you the link. So it's a planned facility to include a 330-foot tall trick shot tower, a museum, restaurants, and more. And it's not $100 billion. It's $100 million headquarters and entertainment destination. So there you have it.
Well, I don't know what's public or not, but I don't know if this is public. They're going to have that money.
This is public. This was in 2022. This is happening.
How they're getting the money?
They didn't have that money then, but I don't even remember what's public or not.
Oh, welcome to my world. Okay,
there you
one
go.
other
There's
point.
the theme park.
It looks like
that looks a hell of a lot like a California rail to me. I can make a rendering too. By the way, again, who the hell wants a trick shot thing? Do you know how annoying it is to do one of those trick shot videos? It's like literally like I'm gonna film. That's why they're so excited when they get the trick shot, because they've been trying to get a penny into a fucking porpoise for 57 hours and they're going crazy, and they finally did it and they can stop.
Dave, you just blew my mind that we can share screens in Riverside. But I want to keep us slightly on topic on this topic of like influencer versus community versus influencer plus community. I also interviewed Ty Haney, the founder of Outdoor Voices, and TYB, Try Your Best, which is a new community rewards platform.
An offline ventures investment. Keep going.
What is with the name?
Try Your Best. I don't know, but I want to make this point because it's really relevant. Thank you. This is so great. This is what I love about being a podcast creator. Every day, a little bit better.
Tell the listeners what's happening for those that can't
Yeah,
see.
I was going to say the listener, Dave just pulled up my article and the information and a glowing photo. I mean, she looks fabulous. My hair looks a little weird. I got to say, so this week, Outdoor Voices shut its stores. And if you go back to when
sad.
she departed a few years ago, it was sudden and very contentious with the board. And I asked her about that, and she was quite honest about disagreeing with her chairman, who is retail veteran Mickey Drexler, about specifically the marketing strategy. And she wanted to put more money behind their community efforts. And the board didn't think the ROI was there. But one of the things Outdoor Voices had really championed was they had these, ambassadors who wore those doing things hats, and I can picture them, and really drove the brand. And so she's trying to harness that and put an ROI story behind it. But when I asked her, how do you feel about all these stores shutting down and maybe the brand going away? She said, the only thing that she thinks got it this far was that community, that even after she had left, for many years, this brand was able to kind of exist because of it. And so I enjoyed the interview very much. People should check out the company. And for those of you listeners who kind of follow this, there's a wave of fairly contentious departures of young female founders from their companies that all kind of happened over a 6-month period and were unfairly lumped together in different ways. But I think this was the first time she really talked at length about the reasons behind it, and
That's cool.
ties very much directly to this community story. A couple more themes from the conference. It'll be very quickly. AVOD. Everyone know what AVOD is? Fast channels?
No idea.
Video on demand. AI video on demand.
Advertising. So the new thing, apparently, all these connected TV platforms, Amazon, Roku, Tubi, but Amazon's the big kahuna in the space, are really trying to get basically a channel of content, 150 hours of streaming ad-supported video content. And this is really what they see as the key to the next level of engagement, and also expanding beyond the subscription models and streaming. And so you're seeing now a lot of fast channels around Baywatch, or these old episodes with huge libraries of content.
Really?
Absolutely. But this is going to be the next YouTuber kind of thing.
Can I do the under on this? I thought it was a fascinating conversation.
I'm really not understanding what this is. What do you mean there's a Baywatch fast channel?
Do you have a connected television, Dave?
Yeah, we use
Do
Samsung
I?
Smart
I
TVs.
think so.
Okay.
Yes.
So before you click over to Apple TV, which I know you do, there's probably
I
an
can't
interface.
stand Samsung devices in my house, but I have to have a few. Yeah.
So you have an interface that comes up before you, again, click your Apple remote.
Yeah.
And if you scroll down 2 or 3 lines, you would see under recommended for you or whatever, just a bunch of different content, right?
Oh, shit. Of absolute shit.
Yeah, that's why it's always bad.
Okay. Well, there are a lot of people in the world who aren't Dave Morin and Sam Lessin.
I was in these conversations and I thought it was super fascinating, and these people spoke very passionately about how this is a thing.
Just Sam, before we move on, the thing that is a thing is these
shitty
little pieces of content sitting in that recommended bar on the Samsung
It's the
frame.
thing where you turn on your TV and there's some Yahoo bullshit that picks up on your TV. You have to scroll away from before. Here's the thing. You know what
that's called an AVOD?
Advertising, ad-supported video on demand.
Okay.
AVOD.
Let me give the under on this, which I think Dave can easily give or Britt can give from a Bay technology perspective. I get the Hollywood story on it is pretty compelling. Oh, people, churn on subscription services, vertical channels, ad-supported, what's old is new. It sounds cool. Who the hell would watch any of this shit? It's very similar to how for years people used to talk about how all the toolbar companies were minting cash on old people who didn't know how to uninstall toolbars.
That's it.
Right?
It's toolbars. 100%.
It's toolbars. And so,
Sam,
the reality is there are a bunch of old people who don't know how to use their televisions and will accidentally turn on Baywatch for 100 hours, right? But those are not good customers, right? Those aren't the people you actually want to sell shit to. So I just have a very hard time buying the story. Right?
I don't know. I mean, I get it from the devil's in the defaults perspective, right? There's just a bunch of default content sitting there.
So
People
Sam,
click on it, I'm sure.
Or
Yeah, that's called the toolbar business.
take Crunchyroll, right? Take a subscription-based product that has a hugely loyal following of, highly. So Crunchyroll is that anime
Love Crunchyroll.
video. Everyone loves
Never
it. They are-
subscribe.
I have no
great,
idea
though.
what Crunchyroll is.
okay.
It's an
So
anime-infused video network. And they also sell commerce and all kinds of things. It's huge.
They started as
All right.
they're one of the first sort of vertical subscription VOD plays, and they've done very, very well. And so also, I mean, there's no one in the world as pro subscription as I am. So what I'm about to say should be shocking, but there is a limited market of the people who are going to subscribe to that. So if Crunchyroll also had, now they have to worry about cannibalization, but this is what Netflix is doing. This is what everyone's doing, an ad-supported channel. I mean, someone could do an ad-supported channel that is free and 70% as good as Crunchyroll. Some percentage of people are going to watch that. It's not insignificant.
Oh, for sure.
No, just to put, but
Just the default.
There's a difference between ad-supported content, which I could totally buy, being like, I want to watch Baywatch. Now there are ads in Baywatch. Fine. But calling that a channel, like, why? Right? You know what I mean?
Because
like,
it's because you don't find it by going to a programming grid at 7 p.m. You just plug in and then you're in the ether.
It's like a
until you
YouTube channel.
stop.
Yeah.
Wait, so Jess, what are people doing with this? I guess that's what I'm interested in. Like, what was the substance of the conversation?
Well, the
Are
substance of
people
the
delivering
conversation,
good stories this way, or is it just Baywatch?
Baywatch.
the substance of the conversation was it's a huge priority for the platforms. And over the next 12 months,
Meaning Samsung or which platform?
Amazon, Roku, Tubi, but Amazon's really the player with heft here.
Okay.
That right now it's very, basic library content. By the way, Netflix was built on library content and then they had House
Sure.
of Cards, right? So
Sure.
we're in the library content phase, but the Hollywood agents, so take it with a grain of salt, think that over the next 12 months, there's an opportunity for a lot of different types of content creators to build these fast channels, whether they're people like Mr. Beast or, you name it, because there is going to be a kind of land grab for content and there'll be scale to the first movers.
Interesting.
And so forth.
I mean, I guess I get it that Amazon is interested in this because Amazon's library has kind of been middle market to low quality. Like I almost
Sure.
never watch Amazon content. And so I would guess this is why they're the leader here, is that they're trying to figure out ways to get their distribution surface like out of their app and out into the front somehow.
So look, what do we have right now in the world? We have content that's long form that you go to find and click on a grid or type in, you talk to your Apple remote and it kind of hears your
Yep.
voice and gets you somewhere and you choose it.
Mm-hmm.
That can be free, that can be ad supported, whatever. We then have on the social side TikTok, right? And Instagram Reels, which is I don't know what the fuck I want to watch. Show me some shit.
Yep.
The thing that I find I'm having a skepticism about on this is basically what this is for someone like an Amazon, it's removing the friction of you get to, I want to watch something, but I actually have no idea what I want to watch. So just serve me some shit and I'll watch it. Right. And like,
yeah, I mean, that's kind of the missing interface, right?
it feels
That's
like
a huge
crappier
market.
Reels.
Well, but Sam,
No.
isn't it just what it should have been? Like, it's just this missing piece of what these TVs should have been all along, which is back to when we were kids in the 90s, just being able to click next, and just
But
have
that was
things.
strictly worse. Like
Yeah.
there's a reason we got away from that because it's like bad.
I
right?
don't know.
Like,
I think
Not on TikTok.
you're not thinking about middle America, like a
Or
lot of people in middle
any
America.
of America. I mean, sometimes
Not
you
just old
wanna-
people. Yeah, sometimes you just want to veg out.
I think you guys are down on people. I think people want to watch great stuff and they'll search
Yeah.
for it.
I think they want to watch Baywatch.
I think they want to watch it all. I think, Sam, your framework makes a lot of sense. It is the right way to think about it, right? You have this is like the lean forward, the lean back, the lean sideways.
lean
I don't know.
middle.
this is
Yeah.
the like have a Slurpee out the side of your nose, with your pants undone on the couch, and I can't
It's
even
Wally
think to
mode.
watch something.
Yeah.
No, but it's not because, again, you guys are you're the biggest champions of niche communities. Imagine your niche community And if there were fast channels that pumped whatever that is, surfing, tennis, skydiving, flight.
It's just really hard to imagine that what happens to be on at 3 a.m. on like one of these channels is compelling versus the other stuff I could watch.
Well,
in
but
those communities.
also, the missing word here is YouTube. Because I think so much of this behavior, if there's not something specific I want to watch, but I want to spend 15 minutes tuning out, I go to YouTube and I look at whatever videos are recommended for me. And, that adds up. Right. And then but then my surf vlogger doesn't have a new episode and I stop and I leave YouTube. If I was looking at the WSL fast surfing channel, they'd probably get me for another half an hour, and you can sell a lot of ads.
So if you told me that YouTube's going to have a feature, which is feed me content that I can unbutton my pants on and like watch on my screen, and like it's just slightly more tuned than shorts, right? Where it's like, I'm kind of into surfing, right? I'm kind of about golf. Just give me lots of golf.
That's
right?
what fast channels are.
That's what
they
Sam
are.
would unbutton his pants for.
Is that what you meant by unbuttoning your pants? You're watching golf?
To be clear, I don't generally wear pants that have buttons on them, so it's like it's not a real thing. I'm more of a drawstring guy.
Oh God.
I totally believe that there's a space of the algorithm that we have from TikTok or Shorts, but rather than it just being like, hey, feed me the best possible thing, I have no input on it. It's like, I'm kind of into surfing right now. Like, give me just surfing, like more surfing.
That's what it is.
But that's not what it is, because that's at least personalized to me. It uses data. It's like it's a series of things. That's a very different thing than like a linear like thing, which is like Yahoo plus plus that I like find 4 levels deep in my Samsung television and like watch for ads. Like I don't buy it. I don't think that's like a space. Like now I get it's a compelling opportunity. It's still, there is the toolbar thing. Like there are consumers that are like, I'm not going to pay for things. I'm turning on my television and I'll look at shit. But I think those are like the least valuable advertising consumers in the world. It's like cable. It's like public access television, right?
Okay.
I don't buy
I have a question. So
Yeah.
It just seems simpler.
People
to
are
me.
projecting that TV ads will continue to fall 24% over the next 4 years. So Sam, how do you propose more advertising gets placed into the right type of television? Product placement?
Oh, to be clear, I think having interstitial ads is fine. I think we have those.
You just don't think they should be in verticalized channels?
No, I think they can be in vertical. I just think the idea that you'd have an actual purely verticalized channel, which isn't taking into account who you are, Britt, or who Jessica is, right? Which is what
But
TikTok
the
is like
idea
crazy.
is there are going to be so many that you will find your channel in the same way
But that's
you
so
find.
dumb. That's like going back to like the way the internet worked before data.
Well, my
right?
smart TV should just know who I am then.
Yeah, I mean, this just to me seems like it was kind of an accident and pretty simple why this happened. It was like all these smart TVs went out there. They had this interface on them. Nobody thought to put anything in the interface. And then suddenly there were like, I don't know how many Samsung frames are there out there, like a lot of them. And so there's just this distribution service that's empty and sitting there. And so like people are just like, let's put content in it, like that sounds to me like what this
But again,
is.
don't you already have this, Dave? Like I turn on my TV and it shows me I have no idea how to get it off. And like Yahoo TV.
No, it's like Tubi.
shows up.
It's like Tubi or whatever. I don't even know what this
You literally
is.
are like, get this off my screen.
Okay, I want to make a couple points.
Moving
First,
on.
an observation. Of all the topics we've discussed on the pod, this is what everyone's getting quite agitated about, which I just find interesting.
It's years of pandemic TV watching, Jess.
But it
Especially between spouses. With 2 spouses on the show, pairs of spouses, like TV watching is a highly debated topic inside of our
I
homes.
just also feel like, we have another great story out this week about, YouTube TV and how it's taken over the world.
Ooh.
And, on a relative basis and inside the strategy. Brit prediction. New. And so if the last decade in digital media, hasn't it just taught us that people's willingness to get sucked into an engagement vortex, whether it's a TikTok engagement vortex or a Reels engagement vortex or a YouTube one, is high. And what we're seeing is you can get very tuned. I think YouTube and vlogging really said you can find your niche in matching you with a content creator. And what fast channels just are is scaling up the volume of that
Yeah.
content. And
That
so
makes
then
sense
you
to me.
add AI in, and all of a sudden you can take the 20 minutes of original video you produce a week as a vlogger, right, and turn it. I mean, take all the then behind the scenes and just make that something that doesn't end. Of course, there's going to be engagement, in my opinion. Is it going to be something that people seek out? No, but like, seems like a sure bet to me. Anyway, on that note, so live cooking in the world of content, AI, we got to circle back. I don't have anything new to say, but I'm very curious about how all these LLM content licensing deals are going. Definitely feel like they're kind of picking up after some conversations too. So that's the other interesting moment here.
Was that one of the big conversations, Jess?
It was more like I was catching up with some publishers ahead of the event, and that was a real big one. Like they're all sitting here now saying, do we take the relative pennies from OpenAI and Apple and everyone who wants to license our content? And I actually think, unfortunately, they are, because publishers are so scared about what any kind of drop in search traffic will do to their businesses.
So, guys, can I connect this to this thing, Openpipe, which is so funny?
Yes, but can I say one more thing about search and publishers, and then I will cede the microphone
Please
to
do.
you?
Yeah.
But this is one of those things, Sam, I want to write about it before you talk about it, but I'll let you talk about it because that's the pod. The thing I find really interesting, so publishers are completely paranoid about what any drop in search traffic is doing to their business. And in talking to them, it's so clear how much publishers have tailored their content strategies to Google.
Yes.
Like
Totally.
specific, completely.
You didn't know that?
And-
Yeah, it's like huge. They've spent so much money too hiring all
I-
these firms.
I knew it, Britt, but I didn't realize how much, like, because there are a lot of searches on a particular query,
Yes.
publication writes 10,000 articles to solve said query or whatever.
Yeah.
And I got to say, now that that's going away, it just reminds me of what we saw when social went away as a source of traffic, but like 100x more impact, because
Interesting.
Google is so much more important than Facebook was or Twitter was.
Yeah.
And
It's probably at least 60% of a given publisher's traffic.
well, it's and we see in subscription, it's important for us too in terms of discovery. So we're certainly not immune either in some ways, but just the idea, I mean, we saw that era when publishers tried to write, I mean, BuzzFeed being one of them, and BuzzFeed News doesn't exist, content that would perform well on Facebook. And there's just an apocalypse coming, I have to say, around this kind of sort of publisher-driven search traffic. And so, ergo, they're taking deals that make no sense. Absolutely
And
no
they're trying
sense.
to convince you that their Samsung television ad-supported channel is the future, because that's the only place they can get away from this and own a customer.
Yeah. But anyway, so we'll put a pin in that because there are other things to talk about, but like, it's kind of amazing.
So the squeeze, and I'll just mention this briefly because you should write an article about this. It's so great. I only learned about this yesterday, actually in LA, with someone who's a former Facebook colleague of ours, was explaining to me how they're doing some stuff with LLMs and what he thought were the best new stuff. Openpipe. This YC company just raised $6.7 million. Here's what they basically do. GPT-4, OpenAI stuff, super expensive, right? So what they basically do is they have this SDK that intercepts your API calls to OpenAI, and it passes through like 1,000 variants, or when you kind of need OpenAI to like help build your model, it passes it through, but then it intercepts all of your calls. And when it's like a thing that it can answer internally on its own model, right, with its much cheaper, like Llama 3, whatever, like your own weights, your own tuning, it just basically cuts them out of the loop. So basically it drops your cost of basically getting OpenAI stuff by 1,000x. So the reason this is so funny, right? People are doing this on their own.
Total sense.
But like, it makes complete sense. And it's basically why OpenAI is going
obvious.
to zero. Because in the end of the day, like this stuff, when it's in the back end and on APIs, which is where the business is for like all of this, you're just going to get front-ended so quickly by cheaper cost solutions back and forth. And so the funny part is OpenAI is going to go out and pay shit tons of money, relatively speaking, to these publishers to like get the rights and build these really fancy models and da-da-da-da. And then on the other side, all the developers are just going to kneecap them by being like, yeah, I'll do like 1,000 calls to your super sophisticated model to build my own model and tune it myself. And then and then you're going to get cut out completely. And I'm going to do this on open source hardware at a 10,000th the cost and 5,000 times the speed. There's no margin in it.
Why doesn't OpenAI limit the calls you can make?
They wouldn't be able to tell this is happening.
They don't know this is happening. This sits in front of them. And like, this is like a little gatekeeper that's like, oh shit, we kind of should ask OpenAI about that and we'll pay 1,000 times the cost. But 95% of the time, we don't need to.
We don't need to.
And they basically are just going to build. So it's funny because like you talk about who's giving weights to whom and who's giving what data to whom. OpenAI is going to go out and buy all this data from these publishers, and it's kind of expensive. And then all the developers are basically doing exactly the same thing to OpenAI. And they're going to be like, oh, we're just going to effectively scrape you, right? And stop paying you, right? So it's turtles all the way down, which is why, again, this industry will make a lot of money for the end users that are like getting value from these tools. But the actual tool business is going to be an utter bloodbath.
It's happening a lot faster than I expected. I thought it was going to be, low resolution models, local models, things like that made this happen. But
I think there's a whole bunch of it. It's
way
like,
faster.
It's like you start with the proxy version of like, I mean, hilariously, we did this with storage at my first startup, Dropio, like ages ago, like in the aughts, right? Where like there was S3 and we started building on it. And then all these other people had cheaper other solutions. And we basically just became a router. We're just like, we don't care where we store this shit, right? Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons S3 and Amazon was able to create lock-in for most people through tons of products. But this stuff is so expensive and like it's so easy and the infrastructure is so much more sophisticated than it was. It's just going to be funny because like everyone's going to get squeezed to zero, right? And like Openpipe is my favorite example of someone who's like commercializing squeeze. Now, is Openpipe a good business? Probably not, right? Because the reality is that like you can do this yourself and 50 other people will figure out an open source version of it. So it's unclear what the hosted platform will be worth for it, but it doesn't really matter. The point is like this stuff is going to get like basically sliced up to zero. And it is funny that OpenAI like played this game where they tricked everyone into giving them their content and now is trying to buy all the content. Everyone's worried about that. But then everyone's going to play exactly the same game on them, right?
It's starting to sound like the content business. Like people will pay the information if you really need direct
it is the content business
first, right? And then a couple hours later, a couple days later, depending on the story, the rest of the world will consume the information, right? I got to tell you, Sam Altman, our business is not as good a business as the high margin software business. Still a good business, but it's probably not worth $100 billion. So.
Well, the funny thing about that's to your point, it's like that's the great tweet / article is like, yeah, these companies are valuable, but they're valuable on content company multiples.
Yeah, my CapEx ain't your CapEx. So I think that's the problem. Guys, this has been a fun one. We are almost at time and some of us have one-on-ones to get to, but what else? We should flag new reports of Apple doing some home robotics work. Morans, have you bought one yet?
No, but our oldest son loves building robots. And so I'm just happy that his view of the future is the right one.
Yes. Okay. And I will report that Roomba's stock surged 17% on these announcements, but then it fell back.
Roomba became the meme stock. Yeah.
Totally.
Now Amazon's like, damn you, Europe. We couldn't buy Roomba.
Yeah.
And the US, actually. Everyone kind of blocked it. So we've got YC Demo Day happening. For listeners who don't know, that's when all the YC companies it's not when they actually raise their money before Demo Day, right? Isn't this the whole inside
Most
game
people
here?
do, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So this is not the freewheeling democratic platform it's made out to be. But anything catching your eye? What are the trends? I don't want you to tip your investor playbooks here, but what are the trends?
None of us would look at YC companies. They're too expensive. But the Openpipe one, there's nothing to tip. But but I do like Openpipe. It's probably priced to the moon, but I like the company.
Okay. Are you trying to get into this company? Should we do that disclaimer?
No, but I do want to figure out with your team whether you should deploy the information because you pay OpenAI way too much money.
I'm always into curbing those bills.
There's a lot of AI stuff.
That shit drops right to the bottom line, Jess.
Right to hire more reporters with those savings. Dave, you were saying a lot of AI.
A lot of AI infrastructure, like in the same category as Openpipe.
Oh, I wanted to flag. Did any of you read? I forgot to share in the group chat, but Sarah Tavel's blog post this week.
No.
Friend at Benchmark Investor. Did you
No,
read
I
it, Sam?
love Sarah.
So you know what's really funny is I have not read it yet, but I got a note from a bot being like, Sarah Tavel has published this article and you should read it. And I sent it to her and I was like, what the fuck is this? What bot is sending out these things? And she's like, I have no idea, but thank the bot. So there's some weird shit going on and how that thing's getting
I'm going
distributed.
to use the
Okay.
bot.
I'll send people to the article, but the summary is, Sam, you should really read it because I think you're going to have a rebuttal. She's saying that the sentiment that there won't be great AI startups built and that it will only benefit incumbents is wrong. If you look at a specific category of SaaS company that she thinks is showing the way for AI.
What category is it? Does that category of SaaS companies things that Benchmark is heavily invested in?
It appears so, but it also, I
Of course
don't know.
it is, Sam.
I think she raises some excellent points. I don't know if she responded to my back and forth on Twitter, asking her some questions. People don't usually like when I do that, but I thought it was good. Sarah is quite smart.
We like Sarah. I actually like Sarah.
I like Sarah a lot.
We
You
all like
actually,
her.
actually like her.
That's like the warmest thing you can say. Poor Sarah's good. Everyone send her an email right now and make her really uncomfortable. I'm joking. But everyone should read it. You can find it
I've
on...
liked Sarah since before it was cool to like Sarah.
That's probably true. You've been a fan. We all have. Friends, I think we have to call it. But another fun week. Listeners, viewers, thanks as always for tuning in, for sharing, for being in our chats, for telling us what you like and don't like. I got a lot of both this week. And yeah, we'll see you next week for another episode of More or Less. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
friends.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this show, please leave us a virtual high five by rating it and reviewing it on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Find more information about each episode in the show notes and follow us on social media by searching for @MoreOrLess, @DaveMorin, @Lesson, @JLesson, and as for me, I'm @Brit. See you guys next time.